After years in corporate life, I decided to let go and create something more meaningful. This channel is my journey of exploring passions, building community, and discovering what I want this next chapter to look like. Join me as I figure it out and maybe help you design your next chapter too.
Hi, my name is Penny. I left corporate life at 59 and now I'm figuring out what comes next. So come with me to explore the next chapter of my life. I spent many years climbing the ladder rung by rung, and last year in 2025, I decided to let go of the ladder, which puts me in this in-between stage. I'm not ready for retirement. I still want to work quite a few more years, but I want to call the shots. I want to design a life where I'm in control. I can set boundaries while exploring what interests me, what are my passions, what are my hobbies, what do I love to do. So one of the things I thought about doing a video on is some of the differences between being an employee and being a self-employed entrepreneur. Sometimes I call it solopreneur, entrepreneur, sometimes subcontractor. And I want to go over the top 5 things that are different about the two roles. I've been both now, and I thought I wanted to explore a little differently and how it's going to impact my life moving forward. If you saw my last video, you know that after I left my 9 to 5, or I wish it was a 9 to 5, it was actually more like a 7 to 7, I decided to open up my own bookkeeping business. It's something that I had done in the past on the side. I enjoyed it and I felt that I could do it anywhere, so it would allow me the freedom to maybe do some travel, allow the freedom of working on my own schedule, working when I want to, and being able to take some time during the day and do some things that I have not been able to do in the past while working for someone else. So that kind of segues into the first big difference between being an employee and a self-employed business owner or solopreneur, and that is your schedule. So a schedule when you're working for a company, you have an employer, it's a set schedule. You have hours. If you're paid hourly, you typically know that you're going to work from 9 to 5 or 4 to 10 or whatever shift that you're on. And you know at the end of that shift, you can go home, and whether you're productive or not, you're going to be there sitting at that desk or doing those things that you need to be doing from a certain time to a certain finish. Now, it's different as a solopreneur, especially in my situation where I have tasks to do, I have deadlines. As long as I meet those deadlines, I can do the work whenever I want. So I can sit down for 10 hours at a time and get everything done. I can spread it out. If I know I've got a certain amount of days, I can spread it out over days. I can work more one day and not the other. But I can make my own schedule depending on what's happening in my life. If I need to take our dog to the vet, not a problem. If I want to work on the weekends and take Friday afternoon off, not a problem. So as I get busier and gain more clients with bookkeeping, that time will fill up, and then I'll have a different decision to make of how many hours do I want to be working. The second big difference, and I touched upon it, it could actually be lumped in with the first one about making your own schedule, is that I am able to sort of within a day mix business and pleasure. I can work part of the day, take time off, go for a walk. If it's sunny outside, come back and continue working. And I can schedule appointments, things like that. I can do a couple of errands, come back and go right back to work. While I was working for an employer, that wasn't the case. We had lunch, although oftentimes as a salaried employee, I was so busy, I just skipped lunch and worked at my desk and ate at my desk. I had a difficult time sometimes even making doctor's appointments and feeling like I could leave, go to the doctor, and come back to work. So if it didn't fit in a typical lunch break, you have to take time off of work, and that was fine. I had the time off to take, but to be honest, there were so many things that I had to do daily that it was hard to get away, because you knew that you would pay for it by working extra hours the day after, or not getting something done that somebody was expecting. So it was pretty challenging, and I was always dreading, how am I going to fit in the dentist, the yearly dentist cleanings, or if something happened where I needed to step in and take care of something at home, how was I going to do that? So that was a little stressful. The next big difference is income. So when you are employed, your employer agrees to pay you a certain amount of money each week or each month. You have a pretty steady income, and that might include some benefits. And so you know from week to week, month to month, you're going to have a certain amount of income coming in, and that's going to be steady, barring a disaster or catastrophe or getting laid off. When you're self-employed, when you have your own business, you're a solopreneur, you don't really know how much you're going to make, especially at first. You could have a really good month and you could have a really slow month. You could start out, it could take a long time in the beginning to work your way up to what you really need to be making. So that is a big difference. And sometimes you can say yes to things that you may not want to at the beginning, because you're worried that your income may not be what you need it to be. One of the things that I did to help relieve some of the stress of income was I accumulated a little bit of savings, so that I wouldn't feel stressed out that I needed to make X amount of dollars right away. I knew it would take time. I knew I wanted a comfortable growth, and so I don't feel pressured to take on things that I don't really want to be doing. Okay, number 4, big difference. And although this might seem kind of unimportant or small to some, I think it's a big deal. And that is your surroundings while you're working. Now, let me just describe my experience at my last employer. It was an old building. I didn't have a heater in my office. I did have an office. I had an air conditioner, but no heater. And I decided, well, I will just bring in my own little heater. It was very cold in there. And so often I would come to work, I would be bundled up in a sweater and then a very heavy coat over until my office would warm up. And it would take an hour or two to warm up. And it would be very cold at the very beginning. And then the heater would go on, the heater would work and it would warm up, and then it would be fine. And then in the summertime, the air conditioner would be great because it would keep it cool. But the air conditioner broke after my first year there. Found that when they went to repair it, that the building was so old that really the electrical wasn't up to standard to really put in a new air conditioner. So that left me with no heat and no air. And other than the sort of ambient air or heat that would come through the open door, the office stayed pretty uncomfortable to work in. Working from home is a whole different story. You can set the thermostat to what makes you comfortable. You can wear comfortable clothes. You can take breaks when you need to. And it's just a much better environment to me personally to work in. If it's quiet, I can really, really concentrate. I'm not getting interrupted. I'm not getting the constant interruptions. And I can really sort of super focus for long periods of time get up, move around, take a break, go do something different, let my mind kind of relax and rest. I do try to step away from my desk, especially if I'm going to go eat lunch. I do it in a different spot. I really try to take some time to unwind, do something different. I find that it is kind of a pull for me to eat in front of the computer and continue working, but I don't need to do that anymore, and I don't think that's good for me. I think you really need to take some time, relax, and get recharged for your next increment of work. Now, number 5 is an interesting one because it has to do with community. When I worked in the office, I could walk out my door and talk to my team, which consisted of about 6 or 7 people at any one time. It was nice if I needed to know something to just pop out and ask that question, or if I needed to take a little break, I could pop out and talk to somebody. It was also easy for them to pop their head in the door and ask me a question. So it was an easy way to communicate and get a really quick answer. Now, fast forward to working from home online, you really don't have that option. If you're trying to figure something out, especially for me, I am Googling, or maybe I'm getting on a helpline, or I could be emailing or texting someone, but you're really much more solo and you don't have that community around you. I do feel that it can be pretty isolating. One of the ideas about creating this new life that I've thought to myself several times now, and I want to explore it more in another video, is creating an intentional community. Who do you want to surround yourself with? There are friends that I go out to coffee with every once in a while, and I love that. I think one of the greatest joys in life is going to coffee with friends and getting caught up and socializing and talking. I really enjoy that. But there's also, who do you want to surround yourself work-wise? If you're working virtually at home, you really need to be intentional about having people that you can go to that also know what it's like to do what you do day in and day out, right? That can kind of commiserate or understand or be good sounding boards for ideas that you want to try. So that has been kind of a challenge for me. I'm an introvert by nature. The idea of going out and doing in-person meetups and things like that make me a little nervous and out of my comfort zone. I can do them and I will do them, but I really have to say to myself, look, I need you to do this. I know it's uncomfortable, but we're going to set a date and we're just going to go through with it. What's the worst that can happen? And typically when I do that, it turns out pretty great. I think, why did I do that sooner? So that is a big difference between being in the office environment versus being solo at home. So I hope you enjoyed the 5 differences between working at home in a home business that maybe you own or you are thinking of contracting for someone, and working in the office for an employer. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and don't be shy about leaving comments. I'll try to answer all the comments below. And if you have any ideas about topics that you'd like me to cover as I am redesigning my life, feel free to put them in the comments and I will do my best. Thank you so much. Take care.